All right, and hello, Danielle. If I can just ask our moderator to unmute our guest. Danielle, are you with us? Do you hear me?
I am now. Hi.
All right, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks so much for doing this, and especially on today, uh, which in Israel it is Tisha B'av, uh,
It is.
starting tonight. And really, thank you so much for doing this, and
My
welcome
pleasure.
everybody for everybody who's on the call. Many of you know and have been tuning in. We do our Hasbara leadership sessions from time to time, and uh, for those who don't know, Hasbara fellowships, we do pro-Israel work on college campuses, and we help leaders, student leaders, speak up against anti-Semitism, speak up for Israel, and we do these sessions as a way to continuing education. We take our students to Israel, which Danielle has participated in, which we'll get to, and that's obviously important and the key part of what we do. We believe in going to Israel, but doing these sessions virtually is a good way to keep up on current events, get together, educate ourselves, and we wanted to do this here on Tisha B'av. It's the eve of Tisha B'av here in the U.S. It is Tisha B'av as of about an hour ago in Israel, where Danielle is, and we wanted to do that just because um, it's an important holiday, especially for those of us who are fighting back on campuses. So much of the delegitimization that we see and the lies against Israel, the anti-Semitism that comes from it, it really relies on denying the Jewish connection to the land of Israel, right? Saying the Jewish people are occupiers or foreign colonialists in Israel. And this day, the 9th of Av, commemorates the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. And really, nothing quite sums up the ancient connection to that place, to the land of Israel, as this day. And so we wanted to just commemorate it and come together by doing one of these sessions. And we'll open up. I have a lot of questions for you, Danielle, but I want to um, just tell a brief story of why I think today is such an important day. Many may have heard it. Napoleon during his lifetime, of course, fought many wars and conquered many places, and as the leader of France. And there was one day on Tisha B'av when he was walking by a synagogue, and the Jewish community was crying, as we traditionally do on Tisha B'av. We sit on the floor. It's a day of mourning, and he asked an advisor, "Why are the Jews crying?" He was told, "Well, the temple was destroyed." To which he responded, I didn't order the destruction of any temple." And his advisor turned to him and said, "No, no, sir, this is the temple in Jerusalem. It's a temple that was destroyed 1700 years, 1800 years ago at that time." Uh, and Napoleon has a famous quote. He said, "Any people, any group of people, any nation who is crying for something that was destroyed 1700 years ago, they will one day see it rebuilt." And sure enough, we believe that to be true, and it may not be rebuilt yet, but sure enough, Jewish people have control and have returned to Jerusalem. And I don't want to lose that. It's important to remember that we're out there on campuses, we're making the case for Israel. And it's important to be able to really own that story and be real. So with that, Danielle, welcome. Thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me. I wanted to add actually in Torah class yesterday, my Rebbitzin has repeated multiple times that um, depending how you look at it, also the rebuilding of the temple, every mitzvah you do, every day that you learn Torah, in my eyes, every fight you do on campus for Israel, it's one block building back the temple itself, one block closer to redemption and the Holy Temple. So I also love to think that as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that. And let me formally introduce you because we're but I love that. I just want to tell everybody a little bit about you, and please do add if there's anything I'm missing. But I think I just love your story, which I know you are very connected kind of to our students and our cause because of what you experienced in high school. You saw a swastika drawn on on your Israeli flag. I think you'll tell us that story in a minute on the
Sure.
Israeli flag that you had in your high school in Miami. And I know that's part of what inspired you, that and your grandparents being Holocaust survivors. And you then spent your college years at Florida Atlantic, a campus where we have a lot of students. And you made Aliyah. You live today in Tel Aviv, and
I do.
this just recently you were crowned Miss Universe Israel. So
I
congratulations,
was.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
And
you.
so please welcome Miss Universe Israel, Danielle. And
Oh,
it's great to have you again. So yeah,
thank
why
you for
don't
having
you tell us that story about high school, the swastika on a flag, and just what it did for you.
Absolutely. So when I was in high school, I went to a fine arts school. It was actually the number one academic school in all of Florida. So you'd think it was a little more educationally advanced and more open. But on Multicultural Day as a freshman, when everyone was setting up their tables, they had every single flag except for Israel. So I always loved Israel. I always told people I was born in Israel. My father's from Israel. My family lives here. I was always been very connected to it. And I decided I was going to draw my own flag and I'm coloring it in. And a group of boys came up to me and decided they asked to help. I said, of course. They drew a swastika. And in that moment, I didn't know what to do. I didn't do anything. And typically when I'm in a room, I'd ask everyone, but I don't see so many faces. But I ask you, what would you do in that moment? What would you do if someone drew a swastika on your flag? And for me, as this little freshman, 15, 16 years old, I did not know what to do. I was just very upset. And my mom, being the Jewish mom, wants to go and scream at people and cause a big scene. But for me, I looked at it as a moment where if I loved Israel so much, I actually needed to know what I was talking about in order to support Israel and be Israeli. So I started getting more involved on campus in high school. I started the Jewish Student Union at my high school, which to my knowledge is still active today, Jewish JSU. I got involved in BBYO. I was the chapter shlicha and then my regional shlicha. And I got involved with Stand With Us and learned all about Israel and history. And to close the story, to move on to the next question, I'll leave you with one more pivotal moment in my activist journey. I really didn't start as an activist. I started as someone who just loved who I was and came from parents who really embraced my love for Judaism and did everything they could to make our home Jewish, even though we weren't religious in any way. But I went on a BBYO summer program and we were sitting in a room and I chose to do a course on genealogy to learn where I came from. And we were going around the room talking about why we chose this specific course on this program. And this girl next to me is sitting there and she says, well, when my teacher was going around my classroom and asked what we were doing for the summer, when she got to me, she asked me, where are you going? And I said, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to camp. And she said, oh, are you going to be the Jew or the Nazi? And for me, I must have been 16, 17 years old, but it was the second after the swastika on my flag, but it was the second pivotal moment in my life where I realized that I'm so lucky to be Jewish and I'm so lucky to practice my Judaism freely in America, openly pray how I want because this girl who's 16 sitting right next to me, living in Slovakia, can't even tell her classmates that she's Jewish, that she lights Shabbat candles in secret. And from that moment on, I knew that it was my responsibility, no matter what, as a Jewish human being, as an Israeli, as me, I had to use my voice and my story, learn who I am and where I come from, and continue to tell that story and embrace my Judaism loudly and proudly.
That's very inspiring, and I think unfortunately, something I think every student on a college campus, or at least many of them, kind of have to live with. It's there's hate, and then you've got to turn around and just, for lack of a better word, bring it and be proud and loud. And I'm curious to hear about. I'll just jump right into this, just
Please.
how you've experienced that dynamic since winning Miss Universe Israel. Which I want to, in a moment, for you to tell us just kind of the story of how that came about and just tell us
Sure.
tell us in general. But since you're talking about anti-Semitism, I mean, have you been experiencing hate online? I'm sure you've been inspiring a lot of people too. So tell us about that.
So I'll jump backwards before I even get into that. In my journey, I went to university actually in California first. I started at California College of the Arts on a full ride for
Okay.
art because I was an artist before, an activist online. And I experienced a moment where my professor, who was Jewish, pointed to a map in my social movements class and said, "This is occupied Palestine." And for me, that was after everything I'd done to educate myself and be this loud and proud. I was just gobsmacked. So I went home and I was, what am I going to do? I started wearing IDF t-shirts to class every week and posting it on the internet. And
Nice.
people loved it. And I kind of, from then on, from 2019, I continued to use my social media as a platform for activism, for speaking out, telling my Jewish stories, talking about Israel, teaching about Israel. And in doing so, I was also teaching myself because I wasn't going to put something on the internet that I don't understand myself. And that's kind of where the activism started. I never actually wanted to make Aliyah. I always thought that I could do more for Israel abroad, which I do believe to an extent. But after doing it for so many years, I eventually felt this pull where if I'm gonna talk the talk, I want to walk the walk. And I had a special summer in Israel and decided that was it. That was actually the summer before October 7th. I'm making Aliyah, booked a one-way flight, and that was it. I then, of course, October 7th happened and my flight was canceled. Did everything I could to get back here. And finally, I moved here in August of 2024.
Mm.
And since then, I have done my best to integrate into society. I volunteer a lot all over Israel, and I was a teacher for 8 months, and now I'm working solely in Hasbara in Israel education and consulting activism. So the road to Miss Israel wasn't a straight one. It wasn't one that I even saw. I never thought it was possible. When the Miss Israel in Israel as a state stopped doing pageantry altogether in 2021. Noah
Oh,
Kochba was the last Miss Israel crowned in the state of Israel.
okay.
They just didn't see a point in it anymore. COVID had hit. There was not so much money in it, and there was no money in it. And the state as a whole just said, we're done with it. So after October 7th in 2023, an Israeli guy bought the license for the title of Miss Israel and relaunched it. And it was a very small competition, I believe. When they did it, like 2 months later, it was Miss Universe. It was very, very thrown together. But I'd
Mhm.
seen that competition and I said, like, I could do that. I could do that. They set the standards. I met the criteria. I said I can do it. I applied. I ran for Miss Israel in 2025 as Miss Herzliya, and I came in first runner up, second place.
Okay.
And I'm telling you this because I really believe in Basheret. It was God's will. I was really crushed at the time. I thought I wanted that platform. I'd worked so hard for it. I deserved it, all these things. But Hashem had another plan for me. He wanted me to spend another year in Israel. He wanted me to really learn to appreciate my aliyah and like live through war. I don't know what it was, but there was a plan. And this year, with more war and uncertainty, they decided, after watching the work that I've done throughout the years, to appoint me as Miss Israel this year and go straight into preparation for Miss Universe that takes place in 4 months.
Wow. And so you're going to Miss Universe in 4 months, which is
I
taking place
am less
where?
than
Which is taking place where?
in Puerto Rico.
Okay. And how are
Yeah.
you feeling about that? I mean, it makes me think, my mind immediately goes to what we've seen with the Eurovision contest, where Israeli singers
Yes.
who are, I mean, really good. And, you know, uh, I know I can't sing like that. And they're, some of the best we see there, but they have to put up with abuse. I mean, booze and worse, right? And being called murderers and all that stuff. Um, and then, of course, a lot of cheering, and I know a lot of us feel so represented by them. Um,
You know,
is that
I
what you're
wanted the
expecting? Like, no pressure. I hate to go
yes.
there, but that's what we're here to
Yes and
do.
no.
Yeah.
And I realize now I didn't answer your question about anti-Semitism, so this is a perfect segue. But after winning Miss Israel, after being appointed Miss Israel this year, I actually experienced a lot more hate as someone who's been in this space for so many years. I always expect hate from the other side. I always like free Palestine, okay, it's on all my posts no matter what I do or wear, whatever it is. So that was expected, but I actually received so much more hate from within the community, which really broke my heart because the whole reason that I wanted to be Miss Israel in the first place was because it's not to elevate me. Yes, it's a very cool title, and I get to be Miss Israel and go on a stage, which is terrifying, but it's also a whole other burden of the world hating you and all these things. My goal of using this platform, it is the Eurovision of Latin America, South America. Millions and millions of people go on to watch Miss Universe. They wait for Miss Universe. They're so passionate about it, and it's a space that we weren't taking advantage of. And when I always go back to Eden Golan, who's also an Ola, and the way I still to this day haven't seen a candidate like Eden Golan, the way that this country rallied around her for Eurovision, it it was the first time I think a celebrity had made our people feel so united across the world. I didn't even know what Eurovision was until I didn't go on, and I watched it with all my friends in Miami, and like we put it on the TV. I want this feeling of people rallying around each other to unite. I want to tell the stories of Israel. I want to use this platform to speak for Jewish people, to speak for Israel, because if we're not there, people are going to make up our story for us. So any
Right.
space that we can fill up, I want to do it. I want to be there. I want to amplify. Anti-Semitism, it's expected. I am nervous. I did say Miss Israel doesn't have, there's no money in pageantry. There isn't. I'm not being paid to be Miss Israel. I don't get any money for this. I am working completely, specifically only through sponsorships and collaborations. It has been such hard work. It continues to be so. It has barely been a month since I was crowned. So I'm still learning the ropes, but I know there will be hate. I'm going to reach out to the embassy in Puerto Rico to see about security because that's also pretty terrifying.
Right.
And we'll see how it goes. Mainly, I'm relying on the people who have just been such warm supporters and smiling and just random people when I walk in the street here in Israel and they're like, hey, congrats, like Mazal Tov. That's awesome. And I don't even know. So it's really nice to see it become something that maybe we can all get behind and rally together.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think you really summed it up perfectly when you said we need to take advantage of this space. We need to be represented in this space. And I'll just give just kind of a little bit of a long story, but bear with me. I get
No,
asked
please.
all the time, being the CEO of Hasbara Fellowships and having fought for 20 years on college campuses against this propaganda that now we've seen the propaganda, except since October 7th, it's become this propaganda storm. And people ask me all the time, how did this happen? Like how? Like how do they have how is the sloganeering? How is it everywhere? Free Gaza, genocide. Like, how is it to the point that you just see so much ridiculousness from at the World Cup to you're seeing all the accusations, and I don't have to tell everyone all the story, but um, the strategy and really what if you analyze and you read the history of the anti-Israel movement, let's call it that, they've taken over spaces. To your point, they and really it goes back as early as you could say 1975 when the UN passed the Zionism is racism the that resolution, right? They took over the UN. Then they took over college campuses. Then they started running for student government. They said, we can take over this space. And that's what happened. It's the Students for Justice in Palestine and others who said, we could take over student government. And so taking over institutions and then using those institutions to launch the message is what we've seen them do. And a lot of times we fail to show up. We I know our students, God bless, like many of them started to show up in student government. But that was kind of, to be honest, after we saw the other side doing it. We didn't say, so we played catch up there. And I
I,
think we just saw the
yes.
World Cup. There's a lot of
Yeah.
Palestinian flags. Unfortunately, Israeli team didn't win their qualifying games. They weren't there. And so it's great. I think it's great what you're doing and saying let's show up. Let's show up. Let's be there. And I'm going to wave the Israeli flag and speak my truth in front of the world.
Yeah.
We're
And I
proud
think
to know
something
that.
I really want to leave with students that I've thought about a lot recently is if going to this competition, you talk about hate, you talk about, okay, from with all over, there's going to be hate. It's competition, regardless of the country that I'm representing. But I'm also going up against countries. There will be a Miss Palestine. There are Miss Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, hopefully Persia and I will be homies. But, they're just different. They're countries that really, really hate us.
Right.
And this goes beyond pageantry. It goes to every sector of your life, wherever you go, wherever you travel, is to always be an upstanding Jewish person or Zionist, be an upstanding human being. And if I'm the first Jewish person, if I'm the first Israeli that anyone's going to meet, let it be a great experience. Let it be a compliment. Let it be a smile. Let it be help. Whatever it is, you're going in, even if you know they hate you, you go in with an open heart and open mind because at least you're trying and you're whatever they have against you, that's their ugly, that's their choice. But as a Jewish person, I feel it is part of my my duty and responsibility to be open to everyone and let me be the first Jew, let me be the first Israeli these people have ever met, and let it be a good experience, God willing, and let them get to know Israel and get to fall in love with Israel the same way that I have.
That's powerful. Yeah, I love that because it relates, we relate to it a lot, being on college campuses. Sometimes you kind of feel that way. And
Yeah.
that's great. Well, thank you for that. I want to ask you about social media a little bit and just, just specifically just about kind of how you use it. I mean, I think you've given us a preview in that the last thing you said there. But how do you use it and what, especially in light of, now we're seeing kind of another round of war possibly starting with Iran, right? We know it kind of heats up when things are heated in the world. Social media heats up and just what are you seeing and how do you deal with it?
Okay, when it comes to social media, this again goes for beyond social media, but especially social media. For anyone thinking about posting, I think a lot of it is thinking what to post, what to post. And at the end of the day, if you know your truth and you know what you stand for and you really believe it, you really have to believe it. You have to know what you're talking about. You care about something, you need to know what you're talking about. Post it, speak your truth. And it goes right back to what I just said about being the first Jew, the first Israeli someone will meet. People don't fall in love with Israel because you throw facts at them and you're like listing the history and you're telling them you have to believe this. This is the history. This is what happened. No, people fall in love with Israel because they know you, because they follow me. You don't need to have a million followers to be an influencer, let alone 100,000 followers. You need one person, five people following you, five people seeing your post, five people getting to know you and hear your story. And that's my favorite thing to teach and talk about. And it's something that I've held on to throughout the years is that my story matters and your story matters. It doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter. People connect to you and your story. So when it comes to posting on social media and posting about Israel, you don't have to be an influencer. But if you really know your truth and you can sit in it and you can feel comfortable and you know that what you believe is the truth, then you can go online, you can post it, you can talk about your story, or in person, you can connect with people, tell them about your experience, what made you fall in love with Israel, what makes you proud to be Jewish. And when you walk away from this call, I hope you can think to yourself, if someone were to ask me today, for you guys today, tomorrow, uh, why are you so proud to be a Jew? Why are you so proud to represent Israel? Why are you a Zionist? Do you have an answer that you could give in 2 minutes? Really ask yourself that. Do you have an answer to that question? If someone were to ask you, because I remember in high school when I continued to make paintings about Judaism and my Holocaust remembrance and everything, people would say, okay, Danielle, we get it. You're Jewish, move on. And I was like, no, I'm not going to move on. I'm still learning about it. I like to paint portraits of myself because I'm still learning about myself. And I'll continue to tell my story. And God willing, people, like I said, will fall in love with Israel the way that I have through me, through warmth, because they care about you. They don't care about the facts. It's all about emotion, perception.
And what's your 2-minute answer?
Why am I a Zionist? Well,
Yeah.
for me, my 2-minute elevator pitch of why I'm a proud Jew, because my grandparents were Holocaust survivors, because people around the world don't have the same freedoms that I do to speak freely and practice their Judaism freely. Because now, with this crown and this new responsibility, I'm not just representing myself, I'm representing the people of Israel. And it's my duty, it's my responsibility, it's my ancestors looking down on me. I believe in this country, I believe in the people, and I want to do everything in my power to show the world the beauty of this country, what it means to be Jewish, and why we deserve a spot on that stage, why everyone should love us and appreciate us as much as at all. The world doesn't. So
Right.
that's my
I
little.
I I remember just after October 7th, a very powerful meme that was going around. We could try to put it on the screen if someone could send it to me. But there was this cartoon of a child wearing a yellow star, you know, representing a prisoner during the Holocaust, time of the Holocaust, and he's kind of touching his finger, and there's like a young Israeli child with a flag, and they're touching fingers. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. And the meme
No, but
said,
I'm
or
picturing it.
the caption says, I'm counting on you."
Ah.
The Holocaust victim or survivor saying to modern Israel, "I'm counting on you." And that's I think a lot of people thought of that after October 7th. It was, thank God, not a Holocaust, not at that level. It was the biggest massacre of the Jewish people since the Holocaust, and I think you can say the only reason Hamas can't repeat what Nazi Germany did is because something called the Israel Defense Forces. And I think about that a lot, and I'm a grandson of a Holocaust survivor too, so I relate.
Mm-hmm.
I relate.
Absolutely. I always say that we are lucky enough to have Israel now. We don't have Israel because of the Holocaust. We have Israel to prevent another Holocaust from happening. And if Israel was taken away tomorrow, there would never be another Israel. So I will do everything in my power. I will thank our soldiers. I will represent Israel no matter how hated. You guys will stand up on your campuses and represent Israel because if it was on the line tomorrow, all on the line, it's up to us to secure her and look out for her and secure the future for the Jewish people.
Yes, yes. It's important. It's actually, one of the questions I get from time to time too, as someone who runs a Jewish program for college students, as an educator, I get this question. You know, this generation now, many of our students now, if you're 18 to 20 years old, many never met a Holocaust survivor. Or, and certainly as time goes on, it's going to be more and more rare to meet one. And I know, my grandfather passed away at 96 years old in 2020. And so I grew up, knowing his story well. And I memorized, to me, it's become a source of pride, even though um, it wasn't meant that way. But the Nazis tattooed his number on his arm, and it's a number I can I've memorized it 111907. That was his
Wow.
prison number, and he survived, but the rest of his family was killed, except for one brother, and it's the brother that escaped early in the war. He escaped to the land of Israel, which was at the time, of course, the British Mandate of Palestine, but he went in illegally. The British had restricted Jewish immigration, right? And so he went past. He made it through what was a blockade, right, or a quota on Jewish immigration, right? It was a foreign power, a friendly foreign power, the British, but still foreign power saying Jews can't come here, and he made it there anyway. And just think about what that says, right? The brother who escaped to Israel was spared, and the brother who stayed went to Auschwitz. And my grandfather, of course, is the lucky one; he survived, but the rest of his family did not.
Yeah.
It's
It's important. It's really important to know your history, know where you come from. It's like I feel my family story is very similar.
I'd love to hear it. Since,
Yeah.
since we're talking on Tisha B'Av and we're getting deep, um,
Okay.
yeah.
My grandmother was 8 years old when she was born in Paris, and she always said she didn't know she was Jewish until the tanks rolled in. And I my mom never thought I was listening growing up to those stories, but I really was. I just hated hearing them. And now unlike you, I'm jealous of you in a weird way that you had your grandfather for so long. I was really young. I was actually in high school and my grandparents, well, I was really young when my grandmother passed away, but I had a great uncle who passed away right after that summer where I'd met that girl Ariel from Slovakia who said that her teacher had asked her if she was going to be the Jew or the Nazi. And I was just like totally ignited after that summer, and I was texting him after this camp, and I was like, when I get back, I'd love to sit down and ask you questions. I have so many questions to ask you. He was the last living survivor in the family, and he passed away suddenly right after I had gotten back from camp, and it sent me into like a total spin out. I was so angry at myself for not asking more questions sooner, but looking back, I was young. Of course, I didn't want to hear those stories, but I digress. I learned them now. And my grandmother was 8 years old. He was a child, a baby, my great uncle. And my great grandmother, they was from Poland originally, went to Paris. The rest of her family still lived in Poland and around. And they ended up getting a warning letter. They went into hiding, and my great grandmother, my grandmother, and my great uncle went to a Christian family in the mountains of Lyon in Paris, hidden by a Christian family named the Chamboudot family. And we're working on getting them recognized in the Yad Vashem in the Forest of the Righteous Gentiles
Oh,
because
wow.
they still aren't recognized. They're 3 generations later today. And my brother was in Paris a few years ago and met up with the great great grandchildren of the family. They still know the story.
Wow.
They still have pictures. It's really, really crazy. Yeah. And my great grandmother, she had several siblings. They were all killed. They were sent to the camps. The only one who survived was one of her brothers named David. And David was actually interviewed by Spielberg for the Shoah Foundation.
Wow.
It has another insane story. Who was his wife and kids and his everyone. They said we'll meet back at the house when they were in line at Auschwitz, and they were all killed, sent to the gas chambers, and he was the only survivor. And at the end of the war, when he was walking around aimlessly, I believe he ended up in like Italy or something. He was just walking around aimlessly, a skeleton. A soldier walked up to him and said, "You look lost. Can I help you?" He said, "I don't know if my family's alive or dead. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what to do." And the soldier said, "Listen, where are you from? My father's a mailman in Paris. Just give me the name of your family and stay in the area, and I'll get back to you." And the soldier's father actually a few weeks later found my great grandmother and grandmother living back in Paris. I want to say Paris, but it might have been Poland. No, Paris, not Poland. And he went back and he knocked on the door. And my mom tells how my grandmother told her she was like a little girl when he knocked on the door. She opened the door, and my great grandmother walked up and fainted because he was a skeleton. She thought everyone was dead, and they were able to reunite. They moved to New York from nothing. They were sponsored by like one sister who'd moved there before the war. They came, built themselves. And that's my mom's side. And on my father's side, my grandfather I learned in that same summer program where I met the girl in that genealogy class, I learned that my dad's father was also a Holocaust survivor who survived Auschwitz, and his entire family was killed. They were from Poland, and he had numbers on his arm. I never even knew that. My father never told me, and I never got to meet him. So these are the
Wow.
important stories we have to know, and I'll continue to fight and tell them, and God willing, make them proud. And I implore every student who listens when I speak, if you take anything away, let it be a note to self to go call your grandparents, talk to your parents, learn where you came from, learn your history, because you come from somewhere. And again, your story really matters. It shaped who you are. And you have to tell it. You have to tell it and continue the story. I see
Huge.
Aaron come in. Great
It's huge.
example.
You're getting also to a theme that we like to talk so much about on Hasbara, and you know, again, we're ultimately the goal. is tell tell our story, tell Israel's story, and it's to fight back against the anti-Semitism that we see on campuses, and we just have to remember that facts are not as powerful as stories. And I think that's something that,
Your story.
yes, well, someone else's story, and maybe we just
Sorry.
you're social media better than me, and I actually maybe let's jump into that for a sec. But I actually where I wanted to go with this question here and just get your thoughts on it. I have felt so much that in the last couple of years, as we see all the accusations against Israel, from genocide to colonialism to everything else, I have felt that reminding the world about the story of October 7th is probably our most powerful weapon. And I feel that our side underutilizes it. Obviously you have to respect the victims and the survivors and their families, and it has to be done with some sensitivity. We don't want to be, insensitive to that. Um, but I think the world has forgotten, what happened on October 7th. And I think our side rarely tells any individual story in detail. And I think that would be very powerful if you said, imagine what it's like to be the Bibas boys. Imagine a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old being kidnapped and taken across the border into Gaza. Uh, and how would you feel if it was your niece and your two nephews? If they were taken from San Diego and taken across the border by someone into Mexico. Or stories some of the Nova Festival people witnessed, right? To watch, and it gets graphic and it's uncomfortable, and we don't want to say imagine a rape, but unfortunately, I think that when you speak on a college campus or on social media, and if you actually describe what happened on that day, I think people start to understand it's good versus evil.
I do think there's there should be emphasis on good versus evil. But I have noticed, I don't think people are forgetting what happened on October 7th. I think they don't care. I don't think they care. It's not about forgetting, because how can you forget that? And for me, even as someone who's been fighting nonstop, and I've seen it all, I've seen the darkest videos that many haven't even seen. And I have trauma that I carry every day. And I, as a Jewish person, as an activist, I can't handle telling those stories over and over again.
Right.
And when it comes to social media, people don't want to see anymore. They don't want to see the trauma, the darkness. I think it's Dara Horn that like talks about how we always look for the beauty in every story, and I can see that angle, and I recommend that everyone peer read the book People Love Dead Jews by Dara Horn. It reminds myself to even read it again. But
Right.
there's something really, really important about really powerful and not trying to be like everyone else, not trying to say, look at your kids and imagine if your kids were kidnapped into Gaza. It's the same as like saying, imagine you went through Auschwitz or you went through the Holocaust. It's not, the Jewish people aren't like everyone else, and we don't need to be like everyone else for people to feel sorry for us. We don't need to convince anyone to feel sorry. It should be in the moral compass to know that October 7th was bad, and that should be like the standard moral compass, and to focus on the people who don't know, who aren't educated, who want to hear the stories, but to trauma dump and force people to listen. I understand when it comes up in a fight, and I do believe in the power of storytelling, but I've also found more power in telling the positive, the outcomes, what we're doing in memory of. It's a lot more powerful than reiterating the rape, the abuse, the burning, the all of it. It's too much. It's still too traumatic for me even to keep talking about. If necessary, if someone asks, I'll bring it up. I'll tell the stories. I'll repeat what I ever since October 7th, I did everything I could with my platform to tell those stories, to interview as many people as possible. My ex-boyfriend's an injured soldier who was 21 years old, who was blown up in Gaza and lost his leg. And we did everything we could not to show and tell his story of losing his leg. And he was made Aliyah from Ukraine, came here, lost his leg in Gaza, but we showed how he's smiling and how he's living. And a
Right.
great example of social media now, there was a page called Survive to Tell. It's by camera. I didn't even realize it was a by camera, but it was called Survive to Tell, and now they called it Living to Tell. And I really love that because it's what I'm trying to do. It's the only way I'll survive as a content creator, as an influencer, is to tell the positive stories, to spread light, to show the world all the beauty of Israel, the beauty of being a Jewish person, telling my story, telling whoever's story, but what can you learn from those stories? What are we doing in memory of the BBOS boys? What are we doing in memory of the Nova survivors? How are we uniting and becoming a better people because of what happened on October 7th? Not forcing the people who don't want to listen, you're never going to change their mind. I know I keep reiterating that, but really focusing on the future and educating our own children, our own from within. Because how can we expect other people outside of the Jewish community to care about October 7th, to care about Jewish people, to care about Zionism, when our own children and our own, whoever I went to elementary school with, I haven't seen them post a single thing about October 7th. I didn't hear
Mhm.
anyone. So how can I expect other people to care about it if my own people don't care about it? So that goes into the echo chamber too. Sorry if I'm going on a rant, but the
No, no,
echo
no.
chamber
You're,
of
you are a guest
Danielle,
speaker, so you're here to do.
how are you reaching outside of the echo chamber? It's so important, so important. Yes, it's important. But I really, especially being here, I'm talking to the echo chamber and I'm begging you. And I see we have some adults here too, and I'm sure you have children. Like, how are you educating your children and showing them what strong Jews look like, showing them what resilience in Israel and Zionism looks like, and showing them the importance of tradition and values? Because all the way at the beginning, you'd said how we weren't united and there's so many people against us. And I think back to someone in my own family is like very close to me, is very anti-Israel. And he's my little brother and we're only a year apart. I miss Israel. But
Wow, really?
he's very I want to say liberal, but he's very progressive minded and he's very smart. He's very smart, he's very social. But when I look at how we were raised, we were 1 year apart. We both did BBYO. We both went to the same Camp Ramah. We had the same upbringing, same parents. But when he looks back, he says, I was lied to in Hebrew school because when he went to college, he was exposed to words like apartheid and colonization and all of these things that if I hadn't done BBY, if I hadn't asked the questions, I never would
Right.
have learned them. So it's about bringing people in, welcoming them within our own community and making sure that they know the whole picture. Israel isn't this perfect place. Jewish people aren't a perfect people. And like we all have our flaws, but find joy, be the light, all of that jazz. I hope that
Right.
I went
No,
off.
no, it's a good question. It's no, it's an important subject. And I knew I wanted to ask you that specific question just because, these leadership sessions that we do here on Zoom, really for the last what, 5 months now, we've been pretty dominated by the war in Iran. And, as pro-Israel activists, we've all been on the edge of our seats. And as it turns out, it's perhaps going a bit longer than we thought. It's still the outcome is still unknown, of course. But
Mhm.
the recent sessions that we've had, we've talked about the Strait of Hormuz and what exactly a
Mm.
blockade means, and whether Israel has the missile defense to at the time really take down enough of the Iranian missiles, and kind of what that means strategically. And we've been very geopolitical. But we still have a mission here, and it's to fight anti-Semitism and to fight the anti-Israel propaganda, whether it's in peacetime or wartime. And so it's important to have this conversation. And so no, so thank you for that. I appreciate your thoughts, and sorry to hear about
Thank you
your
for
brother. We
listening.
we know we've encountered
I'm working on
now
him.
college. Right. I mean, it's tough. I mean, we've had the propaganda is powerful. It can brainwash people.
And I look, but I also, sorry, with
Go
last
ahead.
thing I'll say about it, but I look at
No,
who he hangs out with. They're wonderful people, but he doesn't have any Jewish friends. And I look back in WBIO, he couldn't find his people. Like the Jewish boys were kind of cliquey and the boys can
Uh,
be Jaffe too. And I just feel that he was always left out maybe a little bit in these spaces. So try to always welcome another Jew. I don't want to lose more Jews and like
right,
make
right,
us
right.
belong.
And that's true. I get asked that question all the time. How do you see, we do see some, I believe it's overstated personally, but we do see some examples on social media. And we know anecdotally there are some Jewish students who have been, kind of brainwashed and have joined, if you will, the other side. And that is a big part of it. It's psychological. It's I don't fit in or I want to fit in with a certain crowd. It's not like the arguments are so compelling that they've had an aha moment. It's not.
It's a privilege. It's a
Yeah.
privilege to have experienced anti-Semitism, honestly, and anti-Zionism. It's a privilege to live in a free country where you can practice your religion freely. And it's a privilege if you haven't experienced hate for who you are, because it will come. It always does.
I want to just allow the audience, if there are any questions, to please go ahead. If you want to start now, I'm going to ask one more question, but in the meantime, if you want to raise your hand, you just click down at the bottom of your screen. There should be the
Oh,
react
George,
button if you want to raise your hand, or you can put a question in the chat. And
calling George.
Yes, and but let me. Oh, George, if you want to just raise your hand with the. I did have one last question for you, and then
Yeah,
and
please.
we'll,
I'll
we'll,
answer
we'll come
chit
straight to
chat.
you, George. We'll come straight to you. But I wanted to ask you just before as my last question here. Um, well, maybe it's not a question. I just want to share a powerful experience that we had together, which is that you came with our students to meet President Herzog, and
Yeah.
I actually wanted to just share the video for a sec that you made at the time with everybody, for those who may
That's fun.
may not remember it. And if you just bear with me, I will share my screen.
Oh boy.
When people ask me what my job is, I always say that it's Hasbara. But what even is Hasbara? According to the internet, the new Arab news website, it's an attempt to control, shape, and distort the narrative. It's modern propaganda and fabrications utilized by the Israeli state to justify controversial actions and policies. Ugh, sheesh. To me, that sounds like some Jews control the world type of BS. Hasbara literally means explaining in Hebrew. Yes, explaining. Wild concept, right? Let me break it down for you. Hasbara is sharing our truth. It's connecting people to Israel and it's fostering understanding and debunking lies. So yeah, I love what I do and I'm proud of my Hasbara. Today, I got to represent Hasbara fellowships at the President of Israel's residence. Not bad for a propagandist, huh? Join me in sharing Israel's story, one video, one post, and one conversation at a time. Ask me what my job is. I always say that it's Hasbara.
I love the word Hasbara, guys. Never let anyone tell you it's a tired word. Don't let them take our words away.
I love that. I agree wholeheartedly, and that was awesome. A big milestone for us to be able to have the president of Israel meet with college students, which is not.
Truly.
He's a little busy. He is the president, and for him to sort of elevate student leaders and say this is important meant a lot. And I'm just so happy you joined us for that.
Me too. Me too.
Well, let's go to George. And if the audience has any other questions, George, go ahead. If you want to just unmute yourself and we're
Can you
ready.
hear me?
Yep.
Yes,
You can hear me. Okay. I'd like to take a slightly different tack, maybe a slightly different approach. I'm
sure.
probably the oldest person on this Zoom here. I grew up in the 70s in New York City, product of New York City public schools, very big Zionist. My father was a decorated World War II soldier who actually was part of when he was on the Third Army when they liberated Dachau. I grew up
Wow.
under very different circumstances, I'm sure, than most of the people on this chat. I'd like to ask all of you if you've ever seen the movie Inglorious Bastards. Have you all ever
Yes,
seen it?
of course.
I
Because
have.
have you seen it? Are you familiar with the movie Inglorious
I am.
Bastards?
I am. I am.
Well,
Sure
if
am.
that movie had been true and had been around when my father was in the army, I guarantee my father would have been at the forefront of it. And to say the truth, so would I. Now,
Yeah.
this business of the response that I've seen from most Jews of passivity makes me sick. In the 1930s, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but in the 1930s, a German Nazi group in New York City, they called themselves the New York Bund, all right, had a big rally in Madison Square Garden, rapidly anti-Semitic. You know what happened? Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel, Jewish gangsters, to be honest with you, got a bunch of their friends together, went into their clubhouse, and took the place apart and put them all in the hospital. Well, guess what? You never heard from the New York Bund ever again. Now, that's the world I came from in the 1970s, growing up in Queens. Now, you're not going
Yeah.
to be able to negotiate with people who wake up and hate you, go to bed at night and hate you, and in between that, they hate you. Perhaps it's time for a completely different tack. Whether they hate us or love us, they're going to hate us no matter what. Let them be afraid of us. Iran is clearly afraid of Israel now. That's why they haven't attacked them in weeks.
Oh,
Perhaps
I
that's
hope.
the right approach. That's the approach that I grew up believing in, and I still believe in.
I wanna say, first of all, my mom is from the Bronx, from the projects. She was always the only Jewish white girl in the area.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
and my mom has the exact same approach. My uncle is mafia, like trying to be mafioso, but like the Italian Jewish
Yeah. That's where I grew.
stuff,
That's how I grew up, to be honest
I
with
can
you.
tell. I can tell by
Exactly
the way
that
you
type of
talk.
neighborhood.
But the difference between then and now is social media.
Yeah.
And back then there was no online accountability. There was you could do those things. Now, and I remember this specifically after October 7th, which is really funny, because I guess the then Jews of New York are to me like the Israeli toughies now. All my Israeli friends who were on campus back then, they were so angry about what was going on. Like their immediate reaction was like, let's fight. And immediately it was bad. It just came off badly on the internet. It was like we're the aggressors. We're already being framed as the aggressors. I'm not saying
They
I'm
hate
not
us
saying it's a
anyway.
bad
What's the
thing
difference?
per se, but there are more, I don't want to say political ways to go about it. There are just other ways to go about it. This is a way deeper conversation, but I do agree with you, and that's where I go when I say like we need strong Jews. We shouldn't be shying away from our Judaism. We fight in a different way, in that way of being loud and proud, wearing your Magen David. I started a Jewish jewelry business after college because I wanted every Jew to be loud and proud. I didn't want anyone hiding who they were as a Jew. So if you have kids, if your kids have kids, it's like show them the joy of being Jewish so that they're loud and proud about it, and make sure they're educated so they're so proud of who they are. They stand in their truth and they're tough with their words. They're tough in their knowledge, and they're tough and they're setting an example. They're leading the way. That's why the Jewish people have always been hated, because we're such leaders. We're such trailblazers.
A lot of it is jealousy. Let's be honest. A lot of
Oh.
it stems from one place: jealousy and the progressive left, which views us as radical, occupying white oppressors, which is complete
Yes.
nonsense. No one
Yeah.
has ever been oppressed more than we have over 3,000 years, and yet they put us on this pedestal of evil. And
Ge-
you're not going to change these people. You're just
George,
Nope.
not.
thanks. George, thanks for the question and definitely agreeing with the sentiment. We got to fight back. I won't advocate
Good.
physically, but definitely
I do.
fighting back. And I'm glad we have Miss Universe Israel here agreeing with us, and
I
at
yeah.
least in part. Not.
I just
And
quickly, hopefully, I just want to answer.
yeah,
Do you think
I do want
social
to go
media
down the road.
can change opinions about Israel? I really do. And I specifically, I don't think that social media is a tool. It's not, social media is a tool, and you can use it the same way that they use it. It's a choice. You have to choose to use it as a tool to your benefit, no matter what, whether people are like, oh, I don't use AI because like it's ruining society. At the end of the day, they're going to fall behind because they're choosing not to use something that is a tool for everyone. Social media is a tool. And if you use it properly and tell your story, people's opinions change. People, because they know you and they care about you, they care about the things you care about. How many people, before I started Hasbara, I was a fashion model for 10 years, and my whole following was built as a model and posting swimsuit photos and fashion shows and all of these things. Now those people still follow me because I wasn't just like some stuck up, quiet girl. I was always talking to everyone backstage, teaching them about my Judaism, telling them about the trip I did to Israel, that my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. I'm always talking to people, sharing my story, and people fall in love with my story and who I am and want to continue to follow that. And then they come to me and they ask me all the hard questions because they're comfortable with me. So do I think social media can change opinions about Israel? Of course it can. It could change for the bad or for the good. It's a matter of how are you using it as a tool to tell your story, to share stories that you care about and really make change.
Great.
Hopefully, the floor is
Thank you for
yours.
that, Danielle. Yeah, I want to go to Ofri. That was from Jonathan Franklin. Thank you, Jonathan. And Ofri, you'll have our last question if you want to unmute and just introduce yourself. And
Amazing. Thank you so
please
much
fire
for
away.
being here.
Thank you.
Your story is amazing. Like it's really inspiring. And I kind of wanted to ask like how your storytelling and content did change from doing Aliyah. I bet that's
Ooh.
super different. Sometimes when people already see videos of Israel, they're like, okay, swipe, or they immediately go to that versus like just a Jewish person's like telling their story.
That's a fantastic question. I'll answer from more of a creator standpoint. I mentioned earlier before I even had the idea of making Aliyah, thank you, George Friedman. Um, uh, before I even had the idea of I always thought like I can fight for Israel abroad. I can't be in Israel. It's so small. Like they don't need me. They need me to fight for them abroad. And it got to a point where I was so tired of fighting, especially after October 7th, the amount of people I'd lost. And I felt, for me personally, like I'd been screaming into an abyss for so long because before October 7th, I was telling people like, speak up, know your story, know who you are, and all these things. And everyone was like, oh, we get it, you're Jewish, move on. And then as October 7th happened, and all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, people hate us, and there's anti-Semitism, and there's anti-Zionism. And I was so tired at that point and so broken. But when I came here to Israel, and like I said, I met my ex-boyfriend, and he was a 21-year-old one-legged soldier who had just experienced something that no 21-year-old in America has ever faced. Well, in a war zone. And he's smiling and he's doing push-ups and he's like squatting with one leg. Like, what is this country? What is this? And suddenly my cup was refilled, and all I wanted to do was be surrounded by other Jews. And I realized October 7th was so eye-opening, and I'm sure you've heard it a million times, but realizing the people around you, because the real ones stayed, the real ones checked in, Jewish, not Jewish, they checked in. They cared. It doesn't matter if I live in Miami or if I live in Israel. They care and they follow my journey because they care about me. From a content perspective, it was a huge 180, I would say 360, 180 for me because I went from fighting for Israel on the ground to coming to this country of Israel where people are like, what do? Hasbara. Oh, you're doing a bad job. Like in Israel, they don't get the concept of Hasbara. They don't get the whole activism thing. They're like, oh, our enemies are right there. We know who they are. We go to the army and blah, blah, blah. So it's a very big culture shock for me. And I've had to really reframe the way I talk about Israel online or talk about anti-Semitism to also take into account an Israeli perspective now of not always looking at the darkest and sharing the dark parts, but sharing the light and sharing good things. And hopefully people continue to follow that because they like me and they want to hear from me and they want to hear the stories that I'm able to tell on the ground because some people are afraid to come here. So you don't have to make Aliyah to make a difference. That wasn't even your question, but making it for me was for my own mental health. At that point, I needed to walk the walk. I couldn't talk the talk anymore. I needed to be surrounded by like-minded people who were going through what I was going through without the pressure and knowing, and you must always remember this, hopefully, it's not your responsibility. It is your duty. I do believe it's your duty, but if you stop posting for a day, if you take a step back, it all becomes too much. The world isn't going to stop. You are not going to save the Jewish people. You are not the Messiah. You are like, and it was a lot for me to say, like, I can't post anymore. I need to take a step back. I need to breathe. I need to be in Israel. I need to go to Torah class. I need to pause. The world kept going. The hate keeps going. The love keeps going. People keep posting. It's up to you, again, to use the tools that you have in front of you to your advantage. Continue, stay in touch with me. I'll do whatever I can to amplify your story. I'm going on a tangent now, but I hope I answered your question. I support Aliyah,
Yes,
but also need it on the ground in America to fight the fight.
that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Danielle. Yes, and with that, I'm going to just wrap up with just a thank you. It means a lot to have you here with us, and we're very proud of you. You've worked
Thank
with us
you.
over the years, and now to have you representing Israel at Miss Universe means a lot. We're all going to be cheering you on, and
Thank you.
I think our team has been in touch, but our students will be in Israel again.
Please
One
let me
time
know.
before Miss Universe in August, and then one time after in December, and then of course next year. And we're always taking student groups to Israel, so hope to see.
Let me
You.
know.
For everyone on the call, we actually our applications are open for Hasbara going to Israel in December. So students, please tell your fellow student leaders, parents, grandparents, if you have a student who's a leader on a college campus, please send them our way. We're going to Israel
Yeah.
December 21st, and August as well,
Before I
but
leave for Miss
that's now
Universe.
closed. But sorry,
I said right before I leave for Miss Universe.
no, after isn't it November, Miss Universe?
It is no. Oh, you're right. It's after. December's my birthday. Sorry.
Yeah, if you
But
speak to our
November
group,
21st.
your title might change by then. You're going to be Miss Universe. Not,
God,
we
that's a
hope, we
Shem.
hope.
God
That's
willing.
what we're cheering for.
I'm
So
thinking
at that point, we'll have to update your bio. God willing, God willing. So we hope to see you there, and hope to see, like I said, anyone who has a college student who is open
Please.
to
Yeah.
applying. Now is the time. It's open, and all the information's on our website. You can always contact me. And thank you everybody for joining. Danielle,
Thank
thank you.
you.
It means a lot to have you. Good luck. We're
Thank
cheering
you.
you on at Miss Universe, and in the meantime,
Wow.
everybody has a very easy and a meaningful, reflective day on Tisha B'Av,
Yeah.
whether you're here or in Israel. And thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.